Hey guys, Letter Magic here, and the War of the Spark pre-release is coming up this weekend, although if you Googled it and went to the first two links, the wpn.wizards.com page or the Gatherer article about it, neither of them say when it is. Good job, guys. But yeah, it is this weekend, and pre-releases run a lot differently than constructed, so I always make like a bit of a guide, but it's set specific, otherwise I'd just be making the same video over and over and over. So these are the best cards to add to your deck from War of the Spark, because, well, at these events, the decks are so much weaker and slower, and you can't just choose whatever goes in them. So things like equipment, removal, really large creatures, recurring abilities are exceptionally good. Stuff like that just dominates. Now this is going to be one of the craziest pre-releases ever because of all the planeswalkers. I believe every kit contains 6 boosters plus a promo plus I think a bonus promo that's also a planeswalker. So I believe you get a regular one and then a guaranteed planeswalker one. Or they might skip the original promo. I don't remember. There was all kinds of lists floating around. I never verified it. So yeah, shocker, planeswalkers are going to be good. And honestly, the mythic or rare slot is going to make or break your pool. But I've had horrible pools and still won with them. And that's because I really know what I'm doing when it comes to just building a deck quickly on the fly. I love it. It's my favorite format. So I figured I'd share some tips with you guys. So I made a short list of the best cards that'll just do really exceptionally well at the pre-release. A lot of these aren't even that great in constructed, but specifically at the pre-release, they will be good. And I only use the commons and uncommons for this list because, yeah, shocker, you open up a rare mythic and it's good. And if you open up a really good mythic, you'll do well with it. I don't need to tell you that. And I also skipped the planeswalkers because, I mean, yeah, they are one per pack, so you're going to come across them more often than you would normally do, but I don't need to tell you that planeswalkers are good, and some of them are duds too, so I figured you open a pack and a planeswalker's in it, if it's on color, you're probably throwing it in almost regardless. So skipping planeswalkers, rares, and mythics, here is the rest of the cards from the common and uncommon pool that will do really well if you add them to your deck. First is On Crop Invader. It's a 2/2 for 3, and it's a zombie minotaur warrior, but subtyping, unless you can get something really going, ignore it at this event. In other words, you probably won't be playing zombie tribal, but hey, sometimes the pool adds up like that. So as long as it's your turn, it has first strike. So in other words, while you're attacking. I mean, that's the most relevant time. And you can also pay 1, sacrifice another creature at instant speed, and it gets +2 attack. So this thing, you can just drop it in, and yeah, it's not a good attack power value compared to mana, but also in a 2-color deck, this is only single red, so it's easier to get out. And 3 mana will not be that hard to get to at the pre-release. So having a creature that has a built-in ambush boost that they know, so it's not a surprise, but they know you can activate that at any time that you have another creature in play, they almost can't even block this every turn, or they're going to lose a creature every single turn. And early game, I mean, 2 first strike no matter what. Ooh. And now consider you're probably going to be swinging at a couple planeswalkers. I mean, on the low end, I would assume somebody would have 2 planeswalkers per deck. And it's a 40-card deck, and you start with 7 cards. So you're going to see them in almost every single game. So being able to just send this at a planeswalker every single turn, and if they decide to chump block it, if it has above 2 toughness, boom, sack a creature, done, and then you keep this. This is a huge threat, and anything that costs 3 is barely worth burning a removal spell on. And it's a common. So this is just all around good. This is actually one of the best creatures in the entire set for pre-release. And because it's just a 2/2 with 3 with an inconsistent ability and it gets rid of creatures which, I kind of need those in place, a lot of people look past this. Do not do that. Next up, we've got Aid the Fallen. Everybody knows that removal is insanely important at the pre-release because you just wait for something too big to handle that shuts down combat or that's going to keep swinging and kill you in a couple turns, and then you get rid of it. And then you instantly turn the game from you losing to you winning. But what if you had a little magic card called Aid the Fallen that costs 2 that can undo a removal? So you choose one or both, return target creature card from the graveyard to your hand, and then a planeswalker as well. So if they took out one of your planeswalkers, it's not like you have that many of them in the deck. Well, now they have to deal with it again, and then you get a creature as well. So you could go get, your biggest, baddest creature, or even something mid-range in case of emergency. Now, this is a super late game spell, so it's beyond worthless in your opening hand, and that's a shame. But if you take, oh no, my biggest threat is gone, now what am I going to do? And turn it into, yeah, it's back and I'm going to win again for 2 mana. And the other thing is you cast this late enough, you have like 7 mana in play, you've got 5 remaining mana to kick one of the 2 back into play. Just natural cast it. So a lot of people see this and say, it's situational, it's late game only, I don't know. It doesn't bring it directly into play from the battlefield, but no, definitely put this in. Now, don't go too many copies of it. I don't know if I'd even play 2 necessarily. Certainly not above 2, unless I'm playing like an all creatures deck or some kind of death trigger or something weird, but usually you can't set up something weird like that at the pre-release. So next up, we've got Nahiri's Stoneblades, and there's very little actual removal in the set, like just outright destroy a creature. So a lot of times you have to treat a card like this as removal, because it's instant speed, and up to 2 target creatures get +2 attack, +0 toughness until end of turn, but it's only a 2 cost. So there's some options with this. They let a creature through, they let 2 creatures through, whatever. Boom, 4 extra damage, they're dead. I mean, you could use this as a finisher. Otherwise, you just send some little 1/1, some 2/2, maybe even a 3/3, and then they block it. They're like, what are you doing? Or maybe they let it through because they think they have a threat, and you could back it up with this card. Either way, I mean, hey, it's damage. Then they throw their biggest, 5/5, 6/6 in front and goodbye. And maybe they let one of the 2 creatures through. There you go, bonus damage. I mean, there's so many different combinations, and you can use this on defense. It doesn't say up to 2 attacking creatures, which for 2 mana I thought it would. So the problem is without a toughness boost, you are probably going to lose those creatures, but in the typical red deck in this set, I don't think it'll be the end of the world. And the ability to take down 2 creatures with 1 spell that costs 2 at instant speed is pretty damn good. Next up, we got one of the absolute best cards in the set, probably by far the best common, Band Together. It's instant speed, which is shocking. It's single green, so it's easy to cast. 3 cost total, and up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to their power to another target creature. So it is a single creature, but you can't just reliably get out big, fat, giant creatures, so being able to take 2 mid-sized creatures, add them together, and turn them into a 3-cost removal in green, very valuable. And this isn't a true force fight. You just deal damage. There's no backswing. So basically, this is a reliable, consistent removal that doesn't tap your creatures, it doesn't get them killed, but it only works if you have 1 or 2 creatures in play that are sufficiently large. Not that big of an exception. I think that this would actually be pretty consistent. So next up, we've got Chandra's Triumph. So this is pretty simple. It's an instant that deals 3 damage to a creature or a planeswalker that an opponent controls for 2 mana. So it's just a double-costed lightning bolt. Well, except again, hit the player directly, but nobody actually plays true burn at a pre-release. I've never seen that. Now, a lot of people write off this card because it says it deals 5 damage if you control a Chandra planeswalker. Good luck. I mean, it's probably not going to happen. Maybe you'll open one, but run this regardless. It's still 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Now, if you think, 3, I want to be able to blow up big stuff. First of all, it's a 2-cost instant. And secondly, you can hit a 4/4 with a 1/1 and then do 3 more damage with this spell. And plus, some threats actually have 3 toughness. So it's not great removal. It's not the most reliable thing in the world. It's just good. Next up, another card that's just good, Charity Extractor. It's a 1/5 lifelinker 4/4. Quick word of caution, do not put too many cards like this in your deck that are good. They stall the game out, they're defensive, but they don't win the game. At a certain point, you have to actually win the game. You need to do some damage. You got to have something to back this up, but this is purely defensive. So you cast this guy out there and he just sits there and shuts down combat. I mean, they could have 3 mid-sized creatures and it might not be worthwhile to swing because they might lose 1 and then you're going to gain a life and they just can't get past that 5 toughness. And if it came down to it and you had to swing with a 1/5 lifelinker, maybe you could put some equipment on it. Probably not. There's not a lot in the set. But maybe you could boost it with like an aura. Maybe you could give it a temporary boost, use it as a finisher. But either way, it's still, they're going down 1, you're going up 1, which is very valuable. Every point counts at the pre-release. Next up was Desperate Lunge, and then I realized it's in the Planeswalker deck, so you're probably not going to pull it at the pre-release. So let's move on to Divine Arrow. There's just another instant speed removal spell with a little asterisk on it that says, disclaimer, this won't always work. So it just deals 4 damage to attacking or blocking creatures. So you can use it on your turn attacking or their turn when they're attacking. So 4 damage is probably enough to take out the creature before combat even resolves. Worst case scenario, you swing like a 3/3 into a 6/6 and you gotta finish them off with this. But it's instant speed, so if you have like a 2/2 first striker, for example, oh, that's the rest of the damage, they can't hit you back. So there's all kinds of combat tricks I'm sure you guys are familiar with. But yeah, I mean, 4 damage for 2 mana, you're probably gonna have 2 mana open at the time to cast this. This is just good. Middle of combat ambushes that take out a creature are good. Next up, we got Mowu, Loyal Companion. I put this on the list because it's a cute, adorable doggo. That is the only reason. Otherwise, it's only a 3/3 trampler with vigilance for 4. That's not that great. And then if you would put counters on him, you add 1 extra. Well, good luck getting that to work. Not a very good creature at all at the pre-release, but I'm not going to not put an adorable doggo on the list. Hey, speaking of that, Giant Growth, aka Super Doggo. So this is a 1 cost +3/+3 ambush. I mean, this will kill a creature. Absolutely, hands down. You swing with anything, whatever gets in its way is dead. 3 extra attack is huge, and 3 toughness will let it live through basically anything. I would legit put 4 of these in my deck if I had enough creatures. I mean, this is like a killer ambush spell. And like I said, could be a finisher too. Next up, Gideon's Triumph. It's a 2-cost instant, and target opponent sacrifices a creature that attacked or blocked this turn. And of course, you can do that in the middle of combat. So it's kind of like Take Vengeance for the same mana cost, which says destroy tapped creature, but it's sorcery speed. This one's instant speed. This is probably the best white creature removal that you're going to pull in the set. I mean, there's better ones in the rare mythic slot, but this is crazy. Oh, and by the way, if you control a Gideon Planeswalker, which you won't, that player sacrifices 2 of those creatures. Holy crap. So there's no way getting around sacrificing. If it's indestructible hexproof, doesn't matter. They're sacking it. The actual target of the spell is your opponent, not the creature. And then, yeah, it's their choice, and you don't get to choose which one to get rid of. So if they swung with 3, they're going to sack the weakest one. But it's 1 creature down for 2 mana, and they didn't see it coming. If they swing alone, they're in trouble. So yeah, put lots of these in your deck if you pull them. Next up, we got Thanos Frog. Playing blue is really rough at the pre-release. You can either go really right or really wrong. It just kind of cuts the attack power of your deck right in half usually. So you've got to have really worthwhile things to back it up, like alternate win conditions or planeswalkers or some recurring ability on enchantment or something. And here we go. We got a 2-cost remover, kind of. So it's an aura. You throw it on, I would think, your opponent's creature. It doesn't actually require that, though. An enchanted creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1/1, which can get blocked and killed by anything and taken 1 damage every turn in case it swings at you. Oh, well. So basically, for 2 blue, you're getting rid of their biggest threat. That's crazy. Next up, Pouncing Lynx. I was going to add it just because it's an adorable kitty, but it's actually good. So it's a 2/1 for 2, and as long as it's your turn, it has first strike. Same as the Minotaur. I mean, you don't have that nice little option, but it's an entire mana sooner. This is one of the things where you're just like, oh, you got planeswalkers? That's cute. Or you got a swarm of little blockers? That's great. First strike every single turn. And it goes double if you've got some kind of little boost ambush for them. Some little, oh, +2 attack. Haha, now you double blocked and they're both dead. Yay. Or, oh, you double blocked and I just made you sacrifice one of the blockers. And first strike killed and my cat's still here. One of the absolute most powerful creatures for 2 in the entire set. Next up, Kroll Stinger. Kind of the same thing. I mean, first strike and death touch. I mean, first strike, your creature might live. But first strike, their creature might live. This, no, we're both going down. So once again, terrible win the game sheer power value, so don't put too many cards like this in your deck. But it's a 3-cost 2/2 death toucher, and you're going to swing away with it every single turn. Or just camp on defense, and they just can't do anything until this is gone. That or they'll just swing into it and lose their biggest, baddest creature. It's that simple. Next up, Obnixilus's Cruelty. It's a 3-cost instant, and target creature gets -5 until end of turn. If it would die, exile it. So, once again, it's removal with a catch. It can't be bigger than 5, but once again, just like other spells, you can add this to combat damage. So if they have a 7/7, you dealt 2 damage to it, cast this, finish it off, it's exiled, you're never going to see it again. Simple, simple. Didn't even need to tell you that one's good. Next up, Trusted Pegasus. This card has been printed to death in multiple different forms. It's a 3-cost 2/2 flyer. So once again, yeah, it's reliable damage in the air. Not a lot of people run flyers, but it's not 3 damage for 3, and it's not 4 damage for 3. So don't put too much like this in your deck. But whenever this attacks, target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. So you can take a creature with you. This could just result in devastating swings. Like your biggest creature, they're all set with a blocking arrangement, and then you swing with just this and your other one, and it's like 7 damage in the air. And they can't do a darn thing about it. So they use a removal spell finally on your biggest creature, and then they're still getting pinged for 2 in the air every single turn. Or they destroy this and then go for ground chump blocks and hope something happens. I mean, this results in devastating board states. Next up, Prison Realm. Shocker, this is a good card. 3-cost enchantment, and it's basically Ixalan's Binding without the blocking, but you get to scry 1, so you can exile, well, only target creature or planeswalker, not enchantment or artifact, so there is that. But yeah, until this leaves the battlefield, which will never happen, then you scry 1 when it enters to just keep the deck rolling, I guess. You know, I was going to say the control train, but nobody plays true like 20 cards of control at a pre-release, not if they want to win. Next up, Samut's Sprint. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains haste until end of turn, scry 1. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm supposed to drop in a creature, then burn this to give it haste and do a really good swing one time. Well, that's worthless. No, I would consider this still a combat trick. I mean, you do get +2 attack, that's no joke, and then +1, so you might survive it. It's actually a little bit better than like +3/+0. And for 1 mana, the scry 1 is really nice. I mean, a lot of cards are mid-range or not what you need right now or whatever, so anytime you can scry or draw extra cards at the pre-release, do it. Next up, another very misinterpreted card, Steady Aim. It costs 2, it's instant speed. Untapped target creature gains +1 attack, +4 toughness, and gains reach until end of turn. So people are thinking, oh, it's an anti-flying card. It could be, but it doesn't say, and you must block a flyer this turn. You could just swing away with your 3/3, and they're like, well, I don't want to trade with my 3/3. Then they swing away with their 3/3, and then you cast this, untap it, block it, and kill it. Or do it to your first striker, or your Death Toucher, and it will probably survive with 4 extra toughness. Hell, if you swing with 6 creatures, and they've got 3 blockers, and they line it up just perfect so that they're going to have 1 life left, boom, kill them. I mean, this could be lethal. It's not the highest amount of extra damage, but it's something. So don't write this off as some situational anti-flying card, oh, maybe it's in my sideboard. No, put this main board. Combat tricks are combat tricks. If you see it say instant, go for it. Next up, Unlikely Aid. Big surprise here. There's a lot of combat tricks, so just watch out for them, although they are split between the colors. So Unlikely Aid costs 2, it's an instant speed, and it gains +2 attack and indestructible till end of turn. Just straight up, something's gonna die. This is one of the most reliable instant speed combat ambushes in the set. I mean, indestructible and +2, only cast it when +2 is enough to kill the creature, obviously. And your creature is not going to die unless they do something crazy. You're good. You are going to get away with this trick. And once again, 2 extra damage could be lethal. You never know. Also, I'd hate to burn this outside of combat, but let's say they try to do 5 damage to your best creature. Make it indestructible with this and just, oh well, let the +2 fizzle. You don't get anything out of it, but you save your creature. So it's basically a black counter spell. It's situational, but damn. Next up, Wanderer's Strike. It is a 5-cost sorcery, but you can exile target creature, then proliferate. So even if you don't get proliferate, you just get rid of any creature. No requirements. No, it has to be this big or and nothing. Just, it's gone. So 5 is up there, but I mean, it is gone. You can take one of their creatures and make it go away. At the pre-release, that's worth 5 mana. And then if you could drop a counter on something, more power to you. So believe it or not, that is it. It's just a lot of combat tricks and pseudo removal. That's pretty much what the name of the game is this time around. So you know what that means? It's a double-edged sword. Watch out for it. You know, if something seems like, oh, why are they swinging with their 2/2 into my 4/4? They could be bluffing. I mean, there's that. But have a counterspell ready, have another boost of your own, an ambush ready, or just be aware that they're probably up to something. That said, I mean, these cards are good, but they're not going to win matches. I think the rares, the mythics, and the planeswalkers are going to win games, obviously. Especially the rarer above ones, but there's a couple that are in the uncommon slot that are exceptionally good. But keep in mind, don't just assume, okay, planeswalker good, I'm throwing it in. If it's a very situational, very like you have to build around it planeswalker, don't throw it in just because it's a planeswalker. If you get half the benefit out of the card, and the other half will never be relevant, that's probably worth it. But if it's just some very useless situational thing like Ashiok, don't even bother. You're never going to mill out your opponent completely with that ability. And that top ability is so unlikely to be relevant, it's like, why even put her out? Nobody would even bother swinging. Ooh, she prevents graveyard recursion. So what? She doesn't do anything to actually win the game. She's completely defensive and situational. So don't drop something like that in just because you can. Also, you might have noticed a couple cards that you thought were hyper powerful missing from this, and that's probably because they're 2-color. I purposely don't cover 2-color cards because they're technically even less likely to be relevant and good and usable than rares and mythics. So like, what percentage of the rares and mythics are good? I mean, it's got to be over 50%. But then, okay, I've got my pool set. My colors are pretty clear. I'm playing white-green. And then you get a mixed color card. What are the odds that it'll be white-green? Well, how many color combinations are there? It's like, what, 1 in 10 or something? I don't even know. Basically, it's a miracle if you can fit a 2-colored card into your deck. It'll be sheer coincidence, so I just don't cover them. So other than that, don't build a giant flaw into your deck, like having just across the board not enough creatures, not enough attack power, no win con, too much control, too many small flood creatures without any way to back it up, draw additional, or deal with larger creatures. You'll lose every time. You'll just have to stop swinging on like turn 7 and then lose. And don't go for 3-color unless you absolutely are forced to by having a small number of exceptional cards while not having enough good cards to build a 2-color deck. Otherwise, you'll get color screwed like, I don't remember, like probably 1 in 5 games on average. It depends on the set, but yeah, it'll be bad. It will lose you a lot of games. But then again, if you pull enough fixing, hey, there are exceptions to almost everything I said in this video. If you pull a pool that you're just like, wow, I can build zombie tribal, go for it. That's not normal, but you can do it. So hopefully this video helps you out, and hopefully you guys dominate the pre-release. I'll see you guys next video.